Okay, welcome everybody to the next in the series of our S&W The Pulse podcasts. This is the Entrepreneur Show. I'm here today with Joel Hopwood. Hello Joel.
Hi Nick.
How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
So Joel is the founder of Shopper,
Co-founder
of Shopper Media Group. And Shopper Media Group has won all sorts of awards, including being a regular in the Fast Track 100, I believe.
Yeah, I think we're in it for the second time at the moment, so I think that I'm counting that as regular.
Yeah,
fixture of the Fast Track 100.
You've been in the FT's Future 100. You are currently shortlisted as Employer of the Year at the National Business Awards, and last year won the Mid-Market Business of the Year, which is in competition with all businesses turning over between 25 and 500 million.
That's right.
So pretty broad.
Very nice award to win.
Yeah,
very nice.
Well done you. So things are going quite well.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe you could tell us a bit about what Shopper Media Group does, and then we'll get into.
Certainly. Yeah. Shopper Media Group is a collection of three companies: Capture, Lobster, and Threefold. And what we do is we're concerned with advertising campaigns, the sort of creation, running, management, and measurement of advertising. And the particular niche that we occupy is where a retailer works with a brand that it sells to create advertising in and around the store. That could be the store online, or it could be an actual bricks and mortar store. So in grocery, the retailer might be Tesco or Asda, and the brand might be Coke or Kellogg's. And we also work with sort of online department stores such as very.co.uk, one of the biggest online retailers in the UK. From the retailer's point of view, the brand is this sort of high margin sort of business with loads of fat in it. They just spend all their money on TV and expensive sponsorships and endorsements, and actually what the shopper really wants is they just want the clothes cleaned.
Yeah.
You know. Okay. So the brand is in this constant fight to assert its brand equity. That's this really important concept. And where does brand equity come from? Brand equity is kind of the sum of all beliefs that everyone has about the brand. Mm-hmm. So if you think of when you were growing up as a kid and you watch TV and the Coke advert would come on at Christmas, and you'd look at Father Christmas, and that would kind of add to the total store of things that you believed about Coke. Okay. Together with I'd like to buy the world of Coke, and all those other experiences and sponsorships and the presence that the brand has, and all that sort of stuff. And traditionally that meant you made some ads and you ran some ads. So you'd make you'd have a Mad Men style kind of brainstorm. You come up with this crazy idea, you go and shoot an amazing TV commercial, you put it on TV, and you give a load of money to ITV and Channel 4, and that is how you reach people. Mm-hmm. So that when they walk through the door of that Tesco, they're not just looking for washing powder, they're looking for Ariel because it washes whiter, even at 30 degrees. And that is, in essence, is how it works. Now what we do, what Shopper Media Group does, is sort of change that equation, because actually in the modern world you don't just make a TV ad and run it on TV. There are thousands of ways to reach people all the time. You can reach them on social media, you can reach them on the internet, you can reach them out of home, you can reach them on a billboard, you can reach them on TV, you can reach them through a sponsorship, through a sporting event, all sorts of different ways. But one of the best ways that you can reach people is actually through the very retailers that are selling the product. Yeah. So what we do is we say to brands, actually, you know what if we could get Tesco to put your amazing new campaign in the front window of their stores, yeah, at the same time as you're going to put your new Persil variant on, or Ariel, or whatever it is, on promotion? Wouldn't that be like a brilliant place to deliver that message? Because there's another factor I haven't mentioned yet, yeah, which is that grocery brands, which is where we sort of specialise, grocery brands are different from normal brands. If you take something like an iPhone, I've just got the new iPhone 11, it's absolutely amazing.
Recognise your face?
It's incredible, yeah, right? Now I kind of thought about that, I researched it, in my free time. I kind of was deeply engaged in it before I had to wait for it, and then I paid all this money and then I got it. Okay? Washing powder's not like that. Yeah. When do you really think about any of the brands that go in your shopping basket? Really only 2 points that you think about them. One, when you're using them, and you're either thinking, got that stain out, thank God for that, I was a bit worried about that, or it's not really washing like I want it to, it's either performing or it's not performing. Yeah. And the other time is when you're buying it. You're pushing your trolley, must get some washing powder, you stop your trolley, and there they all are. And you've got what?
You choose one.
8 seconds, and you make that choice. And millions of people make that choice every day, and that is what we're trying, that's the market that we're in. And so that means that if you consider the timeline of you getting to that fixture, we could rewind you all the way back to the last point you bought washing powder, maybe 3 months ago.
Yeah.
When do we want to reach you? Probably as close as possible to when you're making that decision, because you don't actually care that much. That's what we do. We essentially take the marketing efforts of these brands, we divert them away from traditional media channels like TV, like out of home, and we put them into retail.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. So we're in traditional, in kind of classic terms, you'd look at one half of our business, you'd say that's a media planning and buying agency. That's what you are, specialising in this weird subsector called retail media.
Yeah.
The other side of our business is, because this is such a weird specialised niche, which I've never intended to end up in, and certainly never intended to spend the best years of my life talking about and doing.
Still to come.
Yeah. Because it's such a specialised niche, it hasn't sort of matured into, there's kind of selling companies and there's buying companies. So when we got started, we actually found ourselves doing some selling and doing some buying, and then when we won a grocery retailer client, which is the Co-op supermarket group, we had to split our company into groups, and that's why we have this group of companies. But essentially, the short version is, which is like the WPP of shopper marketing. That's
WPP. I think you said it yourself a couple of times. It's quite niche, and if I may, and obviously the business is massively successful, might not be the type of thing that a child grows up wanting to start a company doing.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely.
So why that?
Why
niche,
that?
And how did it come about?
Because, well, it came about because I happened to get a job. I mean, I had a complete car crash of an early career. I couldn't get a job. I mean, I temped for 18 months. I was unemployed for 6 months.
So this is straight out of
This is out of university. I did another degree.
Yeah.
So I thought 1 philosophy degree is good, 2 is better.
Yeah. That's fair enough.
And then I got offered a scholarship to do a master's and to continue my studies, which I did at Bristol University, and had a wonderful time doing that. And I was always very academic. Academic stuff was the only thing I was ever good at. I was rubbish at sport. I just liked reading and working and talking.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do or what I could do. And all my friends went off to London and got kind of fancy jobs in IT and like salaries and had to wear suits, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. I'll go and do that.
And what year is this, Joel?
This is sort of 2001.
Okay.
And I was working in an amazing sort of small chain of delicatessens doing like very fine food and wine region, which was great because straight out of university, and I'd been working there part-time while I was a student. So I had 18 months doing that, did a bit of e-commerce, set up a website, traded online in 2000. That was quite unusual. We were sending like cheese and wine all over the UK.
.com.
Yeah, and we weren't really making any profit doing that, but the owner of the business, a very smart guy, was sort of gave me my head a little bit and allowed me to build this little e-commerce operation and run the wine side of the business. So I got a tiny bit of experience doing that. And then I thought, right, I want to go to London and get a proper job. Okay. And that's where the problem started. And, I ended up temping for an internet company called FreeServe.
Oh yeah, I remember FreeServe.
Yeah.
Is it still around?
No, they got sold to Wanadu, and then Wanadu got sold to someone else. But it's like one of these kind of corporate merry-go-rounds where lots of people made lots of money, but the company never made any money. And anyway, in the end, I sort of was temping on £5.90 an hour for 18 months, and I was becoming really desperate. And I did some great work for FreeServe while I was there, but as a temp, I built this huge IT system, thinking if I do a good job of this, they've got to give me at least a job, right? That's all I wanted. They didn't give me a job, and I was kind of mouldering away, becoming ever more desperate, really. And a friend of a friend introduced me to this amazing company called dunnhumby in Ealing in London, and they were working with Tesco on the Tesco club card thing and doing all this like data analysis and doing all this retail media and marketing stuff. And I got this interview there and just thought, as soon as I walked through the door, I remember thinking, I lived in Leeds at the time, and I'd come down on the train to go to this interview, and I was just thinking, don't cock this up. And I knew when I walked through the door, when you just know, if I get this job, everything's going to be okay. Because it was such an exciting place. You could tell just from when you walked in. And I did get the job. And I got there, and I was aged 26. It was my first proper job, really. I think I was paid £23,000. Okay. And I got there, and first day, I was surrounded by this team of like 7 or 8 other people who've just finished university, and this is their very first job. Yeah. And they're all like, this is all right, this is okay. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is amazing. This is amazing. like what an amazing company, what interesting things we're doing, like looking into people's shopping baskets and kind of doing all this incredibly interesting segmentation analysis work. And my job, and I was one of the client people, so effectively I was in the sales team.
Right.
We didn't really call it that, and no one ever explained to me that that's a thing you can do. You know, that if you're sort of a good talker, hopefully a good listener as well, and you're good at presenting stuff and understanding stuff, then you should. There's a whole world called sales, which every single business needs, and you don't really need any special skill. You just need to be a good people person, a good listener, a good talker. And I was those things. And so the first thing, to link back to your question about growing up, that's what I tell people now. Whenever I go into like if I do a talk at a school or anything like that, I always say, like, if you're sitting there thinking, I've got no idea what I want to do, but you've got quite a big mouth, then don't worry, because there's a whole, there's this whole function which is there. And so I did that, and I loved it, and I kind of was interested in the analysis and interested in the data and all that. So I got reasonably good with technical stuff. Yeah. But I just thrived, and I worked probably twice as hard as everybody else in that intake because I was desperate, and so I did quite well, and I met this guy called Matt Lee, who was been there 3 years, so he sort of moved up the ranks, and he had a company car and he had a parking space with his name on it.
I didn't know that was quite
it ended up being every evening everyone would go home and I'm there at my desk, running reports, and because I'm single, I'm 26, I live a 20-minute walk from you, I've got nowhere else to be. I just loved it, absolutely loved it. And I wanted to be successful so much, that's the thing. And that now when I'm recruiting people, I look for people who've had a raw deal. I want the misfits, the people who are kind of getting to the point where they're just so keen to succeed because they've tasted personal failure. Sure. I don't mean sexy failure. I don't mean kind of, I launched a business, I took £1 million of funding and then I went bust, aren't I cool? I mean, like, no, I couldn't get a bloody job.
Yeah.
I was starting to believe that I was just destined for a life of sort of nothing much really, and so that's how it all started. And so that was the first step, because I actually learned to business. I learned about retail marketing, I learned about data. My clients were these great companies, which is the FMCG, the consumer goods companies, the Cokes, the Kellogg's, the Nestle's, Unilevers. And these are great companies. Really, it's a great industry.
So were you at this time trying to get an understanding of how the business actually, it as a business rather than...
I was just trying to get promoted.
Right.
I was just trying to do my job really well. And it never occurred to me to be anything other than whatever Don Lumby wanted. I thought I'm just here to kind of do well, And it made me competitive, and I wanted to win. Not by trampling on other people, I just wanted to be the best, I wanted to be recognised. and anyway, so that gave me a really good grounding, and when we did hit on the idea and we saw the opportunity for our own company, which was in 2007, and there was a catalyst for that, which I'll come to in a second, but you kind of realise, actually I do know this industry, I do know these clients, I know how to have meetings, I know how to sell stuff, I've got a reasonable contact book, we're not starting from scratch, and what stops most people is of course the fear of failure. They think, well, I couldn't possibly, and sometimes of course there's genuine reasons why you wouldn't launch a business, because you might need capital, or you might, there might be real genuine barriers to entry, but in the marketing agency world, there isn't really. And so we did really, really well. And what happened was kind of an alignment of planets really. I was, living, by this point I was renting a room off Matt, so we were living together, we were working together, he's my boss. We're spending every evening together plotting business stuff for Don Lumby, trying to grow their business. And then suddenly we see an opportunity, and things had kind of, the music had changed and the chairs had swapped around a bit at work. Yeah. So our careers, more his than mine, he was more senior than me, sort of started to tail off a bit. Okay. You get to that point of seniority where it's about politics, and suddenly you get screwed over. And
there's not many jobs.
The job you thought you had has kind of been given to someone else, and all that. And so that happened. My dad got me a copy of Felix Dennis's How to Get Rich. I read that on Christmas 2007, and I just thought, oh, we've got to do this. And then we spotted the opportunity. And the opportunity was that we were selling kind of Tesco-owned media assets to FMCGs. And the FMCGs were saying, we really want to invest more of our marketing budget in store. But by the way, please, can you work with our media agency? Usually that's kind of code for, you're a salesman, I'm not buying, please go away. Mm-hmm. But actually they genuinely meant it. They meant, like, the media agency have got all the money, please can you go and work with them? and figure out kind of how we're going to put some of our investment behind this opportunity. And we went down to see the media agencies, Mindshare, Starcom, Mediacom, all companies like this, all part of these massive groups. And we had these meetings with them, showing them all this data, showing them all these case studies, and the penny just dropped. That like they just didn't care. They were like, too fiddly, too difficult, just not big enough of an opportunity. Why would I do this when I can just pick up the phone to JCDecaux and spend £500,000 and make 150 grand? Was one thing that one of them said. And we came, and it was kind of like, thanks very much, guys. And don't forget, we were representing Tesco. Tesco at that time, number one, at the time, not only was it the number one supermarket, £1 in every 10 on the British High Street was spent in Tesco. And so when we're going down there to have a meeting about Coke's marketing plans that Coke have asked us to have, we're representing Tesco, Coke's biggest customer, and Mindshare, or wherever it was, are basically saying, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. And we were like, we should launch a business. And the proof of concept is that we've just tried to do what the client wanted, and the clients sent us down to their sort of intermediary company who's supposed to be looking after their best interests, and they've just told us they can't be asked. Yeah. So that's the proof of concept. And also, by the way, that's the competition. Well, how easy is it going to be to defeat them, because they can't even be bothered to give us a fair hearing? And so we did it, and off we went. And we blagged a bit of office space from someone. We blagged a cool design for our brand. We put £1,000 in a business account. And we sat in Matt's spare bedroom, which used to be my room. It's now our kind of hot office. And we sat there, we put 2 desks in it, we had a phone, 2 computers, and we sat there with our new business cards. and we sat there and we sort of look at each other and go, how are we going to get some business? It's like, I don't know, what does the business plan say? Well, the business plan says we should be doing. So anyway, and we're sitting there and we just had the most amazing stroke of luck. Mm-hmm. And the phone did actually ring, and it was Sainsbury's. It was this guy from Sainsbury's, and he ran the retail media operation at Sainsbury's, and he'd heard of us because somebody from Dunlumby had gone to work at Sainsbury's and said, oh, these 2 chaps have set up this business, I think it's called Capture, go and have a look. So he Googled it, found the website, read the website, and phoned us up.
Easy, yes.
Yeah, and he said, come in, have a meeting. And let's talk about how you might be able to work with us. And we went and told him our vision, which was that like a new type of media agency is going to help brands to sort of activate in store as well as they activate on TV. And he said, I really like the idea. How about if you just did that, but just in Sainsbury's, rather than like all of the retailers? And we thought, well, at the moment we've got absolutely nothing. Yeah. Sainsbury's is like the number 2 retailer. So to have like all of their suppliers as clients, but restricted to it, would be amazing. Yeah. So we'll do it. And we started, and within 2 weeks we had passes into the building. We were sitting next to him, he got desk space.
In Sainsbury's? Yes,
and we just worked, and he would introduce us to different FMCG companies. Like the first one was Allied Bakeries, okay. And off we went, and we knew what we were doing, and so we kind of knew that we could add value to the campaigns and make them better, and put a sort of wrapper of client service and understanding and insight around the marketing that was going on anyway to improve it. But that opportunity with Sainsbury's just gave us the raw material, and we did £1 million in year 1, 6 million in year 2, 12 million in year 3, and at that point we were thinking, we're pretty good at this. We're pretty good at this business lark, aren't we? And our CFO, David, who is very, very experienced executive, and he's like the ex-finance director of Olivetti and the ex-CEO of Acorn Computers, and we were his sort of retirement project. He thought he would do our accounts just to help us out a bit and keep himself busy. And we grew this massive business, and he kept saying to us, you've got to diversify. He said, you think you've got 100 clients, you've actually only got 1, Sainsbury's, and if they kick you out, all of these FMCG companies are not going to have they're not going to want to deal with you anymore, because the reason they're dealing with you is because you're inside Sainsbury's. And we were like, no, David, it's fine, Sainsbury's won't want us working with anybody else. And anyway, why would they fire us, right? Because we're the best, which, we were good. We were very, very good. They gave up setting us targets because we grew the business so rapidly. Right. And we were cheap. We were very, very reasonably priced. We had no overheads. And
so is it just you and Matt? Who's in the
by year 3 there was about 30 of us.
Oh wow!
So we grew pretty quickly. We went from the 2 of us to sort of 3 or 4, and then I remember the year where the Christmas party, there were 8 of us around a pub table, like a table about this size. I was thinking, wow, look at this. This is amazing. And it just grew from there. And then, of course, you can probably guess what happened next, which is they fired us in late 2012.
Wow.
And
no warning, no
opportunity to pitch for it or anything like that. And it was awful, absolutely awful. And I had to, we had to stand up in front of everybody the next day and say, look, this has happened, and we don't really know what the implications are for the company or for your job. But we commit to sort of keeping you as informed as we possibly can and doing everything right. So since 2013 we sort of rebuilt the company, and obviously we're now a lot bigger now than we were. But that was the coming of age moment. Yeah. Where and indeed, some of our sort of long-standing, some people left and said, I can't do this anymore. They were sort of, I'm out. This has been horrible, sort of thing. One of our directors left. And there was never any doubt in my mind that we were going to carry on. If we proved it works now, right? So why would you stop? And also we've been incredibly conservative with how we run the business financially. So you get a lot of entrepreneurs, constantly rinsing the business of money and possibly under the influence of, certainly under the influence of our CFO. It was very much in the years of plenty, you put by, sure. So that when we did get fired, and suddenly we were facing a situation where we had no ongoing revenue at all and a big payroll, 30 people. We were never anywhere near the point where there was any risk at all. We could have carried on for a year, just sitting still if we didn't want to do that, but we could, and that was good.
So where are you now in terms of people size?
We're about 120.
Okay.
Across the 3 businesses. Capture, Threefold and Lobster, and we've got 2 London offices, a Manchester office and a Liverpool office with the Shop Direct Group. I think they've just renamed themselves the Very Group actually. And so it's quite a sprawling thing. It's not like 120 people all in one place who all know each other. It's sort of different teams that know each other very well, and we try and get everyone together sort of twice a year to meet each other.
How do you then? Because when it's 2 of you or 30 of you, you recognise everyone's faces, you can probably see what people do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
When it's 120 in so many different locations, what's the sort of secret sauce for keeping them motivated and aligned with what you're trying to achieve, I guess?
Well, there's a few things. I mean, the obvious one is values. We sort of defined a set of values that worked for us, and we found that the bigger we got, the more we had to talk about them. And by sort of talking about them, you make them true. So you try and sort of exhibit that behaviour, but you make it make sense to people by constantly talking about it. And at first it feels really phony and really false. And I think kind of one of the sort of leaps you have to make. We're we're what are we now, a medium-sized company? 120 people. It's not. I wouldn't call it small. I hate that phrase anyway, but. We're sort of small to medium sized.
Well, you're mid-market business of the year.
And mid-market business of the year, exactly. We just haven't grown into our £500 million bracket yet, but we're well on the way to getting there. But you undergo this strange realisation when you've got 120 people, which is that most people don't know you personally. They don't know. They haven't been in meetings with you. They haven't watched you on the stump handling client objections or kind of been faced with decisions that you make together, all the things that happen that mean you get to know someone really well and you kind of know how they're going to react in situations. They don't have that. All they know is what they sort of see of you, is that you come into the office and you might have some meetings, So what you say when you stand up in front of everyone is really important, and how you say it is really, really important. So we've always had this big emphasis on talking about our values, which are stay hungry, stay foolish, stay honest, and have fun. And stay hungry, we try and have that kind of ambition, that almost desperation to succeed. We want to exceed the target, and we that's how we've always been either a rapidly shrinking or for 99% of the time very, very fast growing business, and that is a culture in and of itself. And stay foolish is sort of more about just trying to think creatively about when everyone says, you can't do media buying for Unilever because they've already got a global contract with Mindshare, and they're just going to tell you they're not going to do it. So, okay, fine. Well, let's find the chink in the armour that says that they will do it. And actually, it turns out the chink in the armour is if you get Sainsbury's to tell them they have to, then they do.
Okay.
So, stay foolish and stay honest. Don't just be honest with people. It's better, and it's always better in the long run, isn't it? It's just easier and have fun. It's like, well, if we're going to really focus on something, if we're going to grow a big team of people all working really hard, it's got to be fun.
And you've got, so this year, shortlisted for Employer of the Year. That's not been announced yet, is it? The awards are upcoming.
No, you got an inside line?
No, I haven't got an inside line that I can disclose. Yeah. I haven't got an inside line, I'm just pretending I'm important. So presumably there was a process for that. Tell us about what sets you apart that made you get shortlisted, and tell me amongst that about the best ever first day.
Okay, well, I think, I spoke earlier about how I had this terribly difficult time when I was trying to get my foot on the ladder.
Yeah.
And Matt had a very similar experience, funnily enough, also in a slightly different way. I mean, he's still got his 100 rejection letters. We're talking about rejection letters from some of the biggest and best companies. I mean, this is a blue chip set of rejection letters. If you want to assemble a set of rejection letters, yeah, he's got the ultimate set. Everybody is in there, and so we both had this sort of almost sense of burning injustice that it's just not fair. And we thought, well, as an employer, what are we really all about? And without ever really sort of consciously deciding, we sort of set the company up that what we were going to be about from the perspective of employee-employer was we were going to be about taking people who are really talented, really bright, maybe a bit unusual, not necessarily any experience at all, and give them the responsibility to kind of be everything they can be.
Yeah. And
it's enormous fun for them. It's really good business sense, isn't it? Because you end up with a company of sort of autonomous people who are, if you want someone to lead a team, and let's say the team of client managers, and the average salary in that team is say 35,000, you can either go out into the market and pay 45 to 50 for someone to come and I need someone with more years of experience or whatever who's done that job before, and they're going to cost you more.
Yeah.
And they might do it the way you want, or they might actually come with a load of preconceived ideas, baggage, about the way it should be done, some of which you agree with, some of which you might not. Or you can just pick the best person in that team and say, how would you like to have the opportunity of being in charge of this, these people are being the manager? And they go, I'd absolutely love it. And you go, okay, great, well, I'm going to show you how to do it. And that was kind of the DNA.
Right.
So we are, we have a huge variety of ages in the team. I mean, our oldest employee is 77.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And we find that people of all different ages bring different things. But if I kind of had to draw out something that I think we've done really well, it's taking, let's be honest, young people and giving them a brilliant start to their career. And that's one thing that we know. I'm very proud of the fact that I think I could sort of look anyone in the face and say that if your son or daughter came to work at Shop Media Group straight from school or university, they're going to get a brilliant start.
And just because it's a bit of fun, tell us about the best ever first day.
Matt came up with an idea that when we had our 100th...
I feel blame being shifted.
Oh, credit! Yeah, credit, not blame! It's completely Matt's idea. He came up with this concept that when we welcomed our 100th member of staff, that we should create the ultimate first day at work. So I said, that sounds... What exactly do you have? What exactly is that? Because I've got an idea in my head, which doesn't involve a lot of work. And he said, well, pick them up at home in a stretch limo, bring them to, and it so happened that the team that was welcoming the 100th employee was welcoming 4 new starters that day, and it was the Shop Direct team based in our client Shop Direct, based in Liverpool in Speak. So the ultimate first day was they get picked up at home in a stretch limo, taken to the office. There's a red, actually pink, very pink, the brand colour carpet out for them. They come into the reception. They're greeted by the senior executives of Shop. I mean, I've never met these people, but we've got these 4, young men and women who've doing their first day at SMG. I'm the sales director of Very, and they loved it. The client absolutely loved it. Brilliant. So they met the marketing director Kenyatte. They met the senior sales director, They got a little intro into lots of little sessions around the building. They're taken out for like an amazing lunch with the directors of SMG. I don't know if that was a benefit or not. And then taken home in a helicopter. So, and the whole thing, of course, we had
taken home in a helicopter.
Well, not quite home, but taken away. So they kind of we filmed everything. So the film showed them leaving the office, getting in a helicopter, and being chopped away. And and then we cut it all into this little fun film and put it out on social media, and people just absolutely loved it. It was one of the best things we've done, which just shows the power of a fun idea. Yeah. People really caught people's imagination that we would do those things. So that was what that was. Yeah. That's what happened there.
We'll find the link and put it on the podcast. So
yeah, do. And I'm sure you do the same thing at Smith and Williamson all the time.
Yeah, well, it's a daily thing here. That's the thing. So the other thing I wanted to touch on, and we've sort of skimmed over it a couple of times, is your reading love of books.
Yeah.
And particularly sort of business books.
Yes. I love books. Yeah, I do.
And I know that you guzzle them down, and I just thought it'd be interesting because a lot of the audience will be entrepreneurs.
Yes.
To give a couple of highlights and recommendations.
For sure. Well, I've already mentioned Felix Dennis' How to Get Rich.
Yep.
So Felix Dennis' How to Get Rich. That's
the absolute number one.
Yeah, because when you read that book, I mean, he was clearly a unique individual, a complete maverick, one-off type of person who just understood the mechanics of power and money and how markets work. And now there's so much insight in that book. Things like totally ignore what all your friends tell you. They don't want you to be successful. They want to see you fail so they can clap you on the back and say, there, Nick. At least try to go. So Felix Dennis' How to Get Rich.
That's one.
Absolutely essential reading. That's number one. Number two, I would say Sir Ronald Cohen, founder of Apex Partners. The Second Bounce of the Ball. Totally the opposite. This is like a treatise. Within like 4 or 5 pages, this man is A, more intelligent, B, more motivated, and C, more organised than I will ever be. Which is why he's a squillionaire.
Yeah.
Right, and which is why he's so successful. I mean, he went to Oxford, he then went to Harvard Business School, and created this thing called the venture capital industry, pretty much. And I'm sure people who know more about the industry than I do would argue with that, but he obviously he was a pioneer in that area. And that book is like a soothing balm after Felix. Felix gets you riled up, so I want to go and sell something, And then the Cohen book is more about strategy. It's more about decision making. And how to do that really, really well, and just being really in clarity of thought. Okay. And that's why I love that book. And there's many, many more. The Innovator's Dilemma is a really clever book. I've read it once. I don't really understand it. I need to go and read it again. Mm-hmm. That's a book about product revolutions in product categories. So how did the hard disk get replaced by the solid state disk? It kind of, everyone said it was going to happen and it didn't happen, and then said it's really going to happen and it didn't happen, and then it happened. Yeah. Why did it happen when it happened, and how was it that all these great hard disk drive companies that have been around for years and years, massive companies, they full of some of the smartest people on the planet, and these are kind of tech companies to their bones, and they went bust. Yeah. How did that happen? That's what that book's about. Very, very interesting book. And then what else have I been reading recently? The Unsexy Business. I'm a huge fan. I've actually. I've no doubt you should get Jamie on. I'm sure you will. Yeah. I've bought 20 copies of that book. Yeah. Because I keep giving them away. Because I keep meeting people who need to read it and say, "Oh, just have it,"
So summarise it.
Summarise it. It's a book. I think it's in 12 chapters. Yeah. Covering 12 different businesses. One of which is Jamie's. So they're all really unsexy businesses. By which he means, they're not tech businesses with people sitting around drinking lattes. They're about people who are market traders, who are product distributors, who are import-export, who are building, sales representation companies, things like this, debt collection, really unsexy stuff, bed retail. Yeah. And it's most of the characters in it are probably more towards the Felix Dennis end, in that they are kind of from the gut business people who understand, hang on a minute, I can make money doing that, so I'll try it. Yes, I do. I have made money from doing it. How do I do more of it? What are the barriers to expanding this and growing and so on? And I like it because it's just so refreshingly down to earth, and there's a wonderful passage in it when he talks about having obviously sold his debt collection company, he's now investing in other companies and just getting involved in things. I mean, get him on. He can tell you. And he says he was invited to invest in this company, and the young chap running it said, "Oh, why don't you come down on a Friday and take a look at? Come down to the office, take a look at us." He said, "Yeah, I'd love to." So why don't you come down this Friday? Come at 3 o'clock because we have beer o'clock and we play pool. And Jay's like, brilliant! You've saved me a trip. I'm not investing. Why would I ever invest in a business that was so unfocused?
Yeah.
Which is kind of bittersweet for me reading that, because we actually do exactly that in our business. I'd love to talk to Jamie about that actually next time I see him, because you get to a point where you have to balance sort of work and fun and create a culture where people are working really hard because they know that on Friday they can knock off a bit early. Some people don't. Some people are still working really hard till 6-7 o'clock because they are maybe trying to exceed their target by more, or maybe because they're just less organised, or maybe because they just choose to.
Yeah.
But the point is that you've got to create this environment that brings all those things together. But anyway, Unsexy Business is a really good book, and it's one that if I'm feeling a little bit sorry for myself and I need to, if I'm feeling a bit demotivated and a bit ungrateful, I grab Unsexy Business and I read a few chapters of that, or read a few passages of that, and just think, oh God, come on. If they can do it, then you can do it. Yeah. But it's a great book.
And it'd be good if there was some sort of repository where you could find an abridged version of this.
Yes. Well, okay. Brings us to the. I do know of one because I don't know about you, Nick, but when I'm on holiday, I like to read business books.
Yeah.
And then when I read a really good one, what I like to do, I've always loved reading and I like writing. And my business partner. I know he won't mind my saying, because he refers to it publicly himself all the time. He's dyslexic and he doesn't like reading big texts. Yeah. So we're very different in that regard. So when I read a really good book, what I like to do is convert it into like a bullet point précis and send it to him and say, we should do this, or have a look at these bullet points and see if you agree that with this insight. So what I did was I sat down on holiday, to my wife's delight, with a copy of The Second Bouncing Ball, and said, I'm going to convert this 250-page book into a 10-page précis of bullet points. Yeah, and actually, you know what? Intellectually, it was a very, very interesting exercise, because you get to the end and you know that book inside out, everything, the essence of it. It's right there on 10 pages of A4. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if every time I did that, I put it on a website so that any entrepreneur can just come and go, I've taken the insight, but actually that sounds like a good book, I'm going to get a copy of that. So I've put this little website up which I'm adding to, which is called The Entrepreneur's Bibliography, which is at e-bibliography.com. At the moment I've got my first 2 books on there, obviously How to Get Rich and Second Bounce the Ball, and I'll be putting more on every week. Yeah. And the idea is just to have I couldn't find anything like it online. There's lots of business websites, but there's not ones that are just focused on individual texts, and we all want to have easily digestible content, don't we?
No, I think it's good. I like your think big, act small summary.
Think big, act small. Yeah, I mean that. Yeah. What Felix meant by that was you sort of dream big, you plan big. Yeah. In fact, Ron Cohen said the same thing right from the start. He wanted to build a global leader business, and you might sit there and think, well, don't we all? No, actually, a lot of people don't. They start by going, I want to run a shop, or I want to have a nice little agency where I've got like 6 clients. If I can, just want to get that. If I can do that, because they almost don't really believe they can do it, so they aim small, and because they think, well, if I aim small, it's more achievable. And what this insight is saying is no. And actually ask yourself the question: what would stop this taking over? What would stop it being absolutely massive? Now, some people would say, I don't want a big business. But if you do want to build, if you like to kind of get rich, as Felix would say, then you need to build a big business. And so think big, but act small. Just keep it real, and don't sort of start slinging money around and being the big I am, like when you've had a little bit of success.
Yeah, good summary. And I think we've got time. One thing I just wanted to sort of touch on as well was sort of the younger Joel Hopwood, because I know the shy, retiring, bookish, young man you might have been might not be the son of the global pop star that you are. So what was it like at home with having an international?
Oh, I never really realised what my dad did for a living, because his business card just said director. I mean, he had his own business.
Okay.
He was an entrepreneur, is an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And he left school at 15, I think.
Yeah.
Was made by my grandma to get a job at the GPO as a telephone engineer.
Mm-hmm.
But his passion was music, and it was the early 60s. And he saved up, bought himself a guitar, and happened to join this group called Herman's Hermits, and was like the rest is history sort of thing.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid growing up, I didn't really know. I didn't have much awareness of what that meant.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. I don't know. It just wasn't a big thing. It just was what he did.
And he didn't act big.
Oh, my dad.
Yeah.
Oh no. I mean, my dad is a complete inspiration for me, because he grew up in a working class household in Williamson.
Mm-hmm.
You know where that is.
Yeah.
And very modest. His father Jack was an inventor, like an engineer, could do anything. You know the little bits, the little tubes that go in the side of fluorescent lights that make them turn on.
Yeah.
He invented that.
Right.
The ballast.
How do you start?
Yeah, I don't know. He built their TV.
Okay.
He built their TV out of spare parts. He was a very clever guy, and Dad wanted to be a musician. Was very artistic and very into music, and got the lucky break of joining a band that then met Mickey Most, the producer, and then obviously went global. He was on world tour. He was going to the west coast of America, doing 50-day tours in the US when he was 17.
Yeah.
He was off to Japan. So he had this. I mean, in the 60s, that was. How many people do you think had ever been to Japan from this country?
Well, they had 2 US number ones, didn't they? It might have even been more. I mean, they were proper.
Yeah, I mean, my knowledge of the discography is not what it might be, but they did have a couple of number ones, and they were household names and all of that. And he left the band to kind of pursue a career in music production and composition, and he he's been a very successful composer. With his own music company Pluto, which he still runs, and has just had this amazing, wonderful career. But he's the most modest man you could ever meet. Now, in fact, I remember when the Hermits did a sort of reunion gig to mark the death of Leckenby, the guitarist. They had this big benefit concert in Manchester where the band all got together, and it's the only time I've ever seen my dad on stage actually performing. It was a really special night. And we had this table, and we're all sitting there, and then Dad and my my stepmom went off to the loo or something. I went to the bar, something like that. Anyway, while they're away from the table, these women just go, boom, right, we'll sit there. And Dad got back with his drink, and I was like, oh, someone's sitting, and I said, okay, well, I'll just stand here, Yeah. And my stepmom got back. I was like, do you know who that is? They were moved. But no, he is the epitome of think big and act small. An immensely successful guy who has been very much an inspiration. I mean, and bought me the Felix book, so he kind of set me on my way in that sense. But he's someone who he's not. You don't kind of shout about your achievements, and you just get on with doing what you do.
So what's next? What's the next 5-10 years look like for you?
Well, we've got a plan to get the business to the next level of growth.
Yep.
We're at that interesting stage where we've kind of been good at growing the business. But growing the business is not the same as running a business.
Yeah.
And then you kind of need to grow it, and then you need to grow it again. And we're finding it's a very different challenge to go from say 10 to 40 million turnover. I don't want to say it was easy.
Yeah.
But getting the clients was the hard part, and then just the rest of it was easy, or felt natural, should I say? Not easy, felt natural. We knew what to do.
Yeah.
Get to the point now where you're thinking, actually, do we need to change the strategy? How do we do better business development? Do we just need to do what we've said we would never do, which is go out and hire someone really expensive with an amazing black book who's just going to get us that meeting with Morrison's or get us that meeting with Iceland? And, we know we can help them. We know they need our help. We know we could do a brilliant job. We know that we could convince them if we could get in the room with them. And that, so that, we're kind of grappling with those sort of business development, those real top level business development sort of challenges. But yeah, we've got a plan to get to 100 million turnover. We think we can do that in the next 2 or 3 years. We could do it quicker if like the cards fell a certain way.
But so doubling again.
Doubling again, yeah. And we've got the right culture, we've got the right values, we've got an absolutely brilliant senior team who come up through the ranks and have kind of proved our philosophy of homegrown talent. And we've got we've sort of created Lobster, which is the third company in our group which is focused on developing its proprietary software platform. So we're now in the whole world of tech and all the associated hot air and the
sexy business.
That very sexy business. We're dipping our toe in sexy business, but we're trying to do it in an unsexy and successful way.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that I look after, which is great because I've always been really passionate about building software and data and the more technical side of things. So that's enormously rewarding. We've got a fabulous technical engineering team that I work with. So that's kind of new challenges, new experiences, and we're just looking to get to the next level really, and carry on, running our business responsibly and paying our taxes. Very proud of being a good corporate citizen. One of the things that makes me so angry is you see people rewarded and honoured even, when they are effectively, yes, they've built a successful business, well done. You've made tons of money. You've also taken it all out, and you've not done the fair thing, which is you've made yourself a non-dom, or and you've rewarded with a knighthood. I will never ever ever understand that, and don't get mad on that topic because it's good for half an hour on its own. Well, unless you want to hear it, but so we just want to keep going and keep get to that next level.
And in a couple of years, we'll see you winning the large market business of the year.
Yeah, the over 500 million.
Over 500 million.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you. And that concludes today's episode. Thank you, Joel, for your valued contribution, and thanks to all our listeners for tuning in today. All the references and links spoken about in the episode can be found in the show notes. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to our show, and if you like it, please share and like. And until next time, that's all from me.
This S&W The Pulse podcast is of general nature and is not a substitute for professional advice. No responsibility can be accepted for the consequences of any action taken or refrained from as a result of what is said. The views expressed are not necessarily those of the presenter or of Smith & Williamson or any of its affiliates. No reproduction of this podcast may be made in whole or in part for professional or recreational purposes. No action should be taken based on this podcast, and we accept no liability if we change your views on any of the subjects mentioned.